There's a company that touches the natural gas heating almost half of American homes, and most people have never heard its name. It's not an oil company. It's not a gas station chain. It doesn't drill a single well. It doesn't dig it up. It doesn't sell it to you at the pump. It just moves it underground, quietly, constantly. It's called Kinder Morgan, and it's worth more than $70 billion. Here's the part that should bother you a little. It barely cares what oil and gas actually cost. Whether prices crash or spike, this company still gets paid because it's not selling energy. It's charging rent on the pipe. So how does a business built on steel tubes in the dirt become one of the most quietly dominant companies in America? It starts with Aman, who got passed over for a promotion. In 1996, Richard Kinder was the president of Enron, the second most powerful man in one of the biggest energy companies on earth. Then the board chose someone else to be the next CEO. Kinder walked out the door. Most executives in that position would have taken the payout and disappeared. Kinder went shopping instead. In February 1997, he and a colleague named Bill Morgan bought a small, unglamorous pipeline business. Enron didn't even want the price. $40 million. 600 miles of pipe carrying liquid natural gas byproducts. Nobody was excited about. Kinder didn't take a big salary. He paid himself $1 a year and bet everything on owning a piece of the pipe itself. He used a financial structure almost nobody was using at the time, the Master Limited Partnership, to keep buying more pipelines over and over. 28 years later, that $40 million bet on unwanted pipe controls roughly 79,000 miles of pipeline across North America. To understand why this company prints money, forget about drilling. Think about toll roads. A toll road doesn't care whether the car driving on it is a Ferrari or a beat-up pickup truck. It just charges for the miles. Kinder Morgan's pipelines work almost exactly the same way. Most of its contracts are what's called take or pay. Customers commit to paying for pipeline capacity, whether they use all of it or not. That means when oil and gas prices swing wildly, and they always do, Kinder Morgan's revenue barely moves. It owns the largest natural gas pipeline network in the United States, carrying roughly 40% of all the natural gas this country consumes. It also runs 139 terminals, and the largest fleet of Jones Act-compliant tankers in the country. Ships that, by law, almost nobody else is allowed to operate between U.S. ports. Producers drill, refiners refine. Kinder Morgan just collects the toll on almost every mile the energy travels in between. In 2025, Kinder Morgan pulled in $16.9 billion in revenue. Net income hit $3.1 billion, up 17% from the year before. The company is guiding for $8.6 billion in adjusted EBITDA in 2026. Its project backlog, pipelines and facilities already under contract, sits at $10 billion. In January 2026, S&P Global upgraded Kinder Morgan's credit rating, a quiet vote of confidence most companies never get in a shaky economy. This isn't a company chasing growth. It's a company getting paid reliably for infrastructure it already built decades ago. But here's the part that's turning this sleepy pipeline company into one of the most watched stocks in America right now. Every AI data center you've read about needs enormous, constant electricity, and a huge share of that power still comes from burning natural gas. Kinder Morgan's pipelines are some of the exact infrastructure the AI boom is quietly depending on. Nearly 60% of the company's current project backlog is tied directly to power generation demand. Overseas, it's just as critical. Kinder Morgan delivers more than 40% of the natural gas, feeding America's LNG export terminals. Executive Chairman Rich Kinder has said LNG demand alone could hit nearly 20 billion cubic feet a day in 2026, and possibly double that by 2030. Data centers, LNG exports, power plants. Every one of those growth stories runs, quite literally, through Kinder Morgan's pipes. It's not an AI company. It's not a tech company. But without companies like this one, the AI boom doesn't have enough electricity to run. Here's why almost nobody can compete with this. Building a new major pipeline in America today is nearly impossible. Permits, environmental reviews, local opposition, years of litigation. A serious pipeline project can take the better part of a decade just to approve, which means the 79,000 miles Kinder Morgan already has in the ground only becomes more valuable with every year nothing new gets built. Its take-or-pay contracts often run for 10, 15, even 20 years. Customers are locked in long after the pipeline itself is paid off. Switching pipeline providers isn't like switching phone carriers. It means physically rerouting how a region gets its energy. That combination, brutal permitting and long contracts, is their moat, not the pipe, the paperwork around it. None of this means the business is risk-free. Kinder Morgan carries a heavy debt load. Its net debt sits at roughly 3.5 times adjusted EBITDA. Political winds shift. A future administration could slow permitting further or push harder on emissions regulation. The company has also had real environmental incidents over the years. Pipeline spills that carried both cleanup costs and reputational damage. And the long-term question every fossil fuel infrastructure company eventually faces: what happens to a pipeline network in a world that slowly burns less gas? For now, that shift looks decades away. But a business built to last generations has to plan for generations, including the uncomfortable ones. So what does Kinder Morgan do next? Mostly, it builds more of exactly what it already has. It's spending roughly $3 billion a year in growth capital, funded almost entirely from its own cash flow. Not new debt, new pipeline laterals into Florida, expanded compression across its Gulf Coast network, more capacity feeding LNG terminals on the coast, and with natural gas demand from data centers and exports both climbing at once, Kinder Morgan's backlog keeps growing faster than it can finish building. The strategy is the same one Richard Kinder proved in 1997. Buy the boring infrastructure nobody else wants and collect the toll for decades. Only now, the toll isn't just heating homes and fueling cars. It's keeping the lights on for the entire AI economy. Which brings us back to the question this story started with. How does a pipeline business almost nobody's heard of become worth more than $70 billion? Because it never needed you to know its name. It only needed you to keep using electricity, heating your home, and flying on planes that run on jet fuel. The next time the lights come on in your house, remember, somewhere underground, a pipe you'll never see just got paid.